all the buses, big buses, little buses, and vans is in there. Okay. On the revenue side, there's what we bring in revenue as it relates to the 3,500 in student bus fees. That's either the $25 or $40. That has gone down over the years. And then other charter is a combination of grants that we budget for and PTOs that pay for trips. So most of it's coming from grants that we bill. We charge the grants when we bill for something like 21C. They do a field trip or we have to bus them around because we have the late bus. We charge all that through there. We come up with a per mileage rate and then charge it. So, and then, oh yeah, this was the breakdown. So you probably saw this last year. These are similar numbers. So when you look at, I mentioned 105,000 for the gasoline down here, and the 21,000 for the software. 6,000 of that is one time because we have to migrate from what was called Versatrans, which is something we host, to a cloud base which is called Traversa. That Versatrans is going away and we're moving it into the cloud, but there's an implementation cost to move that and set it up. So, but yep.
Not for this budget, but have we ever looked at staggering school start times so that maybe we didn't need as big a transportation? Especially as we struggle to hire people, that not all
I'd have to go back
five of our 6 of our 7 schools all start at the same time.
I'd have to go back to the board. Well, we got 1, 2, 3 that could probably chime in about, okay, if you were cutting $1 million from the budget, one of these things we talked about cutting would be about 200,000 if we did some type of route consolidation and eliminated buses, but it would mean longer times on the bus. So by law, we need to provide a bus 2 miles.
But that's not my question.
Yeah.
My question is if we had half of our elementary schools start at one time and half start at the other, a later time, could we reduce the number of buses and drivers we need?
The hard part,
And again, we might not. This might be a longer discussion. But
It would be, but
the quick answer, if you don't mind, is you have to look at 2 things. You have to look at geography. So you have a house with 6 children, 3 in elementary, 2 in middle, 1 high school. So now you have 3 different start times at these maybe different grade levels. So do they all get on the same bus and the little ones are on there the most time or the least time? That's part of it. The second piece is who's on the bus together. And it seems right now we have high school students and elementary school students on the bus together, which is a safer dynamic behavior-wise than middle schoolers on the bus with anybody, is kind of, right? So the middle school starts later because of those things. And then the third thing is just the logistics of the routes. And that goes back to, so if you have elementary school starting at a different time, but the whole city goes to the same middle school and high school, then how do you facilitate the logistics of the buses? That's a very good question and one that we've probably talked about 8,000 times.
we can have the director put something together.
Yeah.
It's kind of like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and they all have different times.
Yeah.
And if you take the elementary and split it in 2,
Now you've got
you either
4.
have, it doesn't reduce a ton of buses, and you end up moving that elementary school. One starts at 7:30, the other starts at 9:30 or so.
And then
because
you
have to
run the
push it
buses
to-
more often, which is going to
Yeah.
increase gas.
Gas
It's going to
costs.
increase time because you're going to
So
need
it's
more
been
hours.
looked at.
We have. No, we tried it.
And then you sprinkle in a little bit of negotiation with the district and the union in order to change working condition times. It's tricky business.
Yes, good point. Challenging.
It was a good question, though, Dan.
Yeah,
It really is a
Yeah.
good question.
Problem solving at any point in time. I've been chatting with a couple of different districts, on and off about what they do, and we all do that, right? Some districts have been, and I'm sure that we may already do this, but I'm going to pose the question anyway. Instead of automatically using one of the yellow buses for field trip or games or something, based on the number of kiddos, some districts are leasing vans to accommodate smaller groups of kiddos, and then you don't need a a bus driver's license and you can just have coaches driving. Is that a strategy that we're implementing currently?
No, because we don't have the fleet, but we're having that discussion. So, for example, right now, of all these buses, only one of those is not a CDL bus of all that fleet. We have a bunch of Dodge Caravans to run around, but, you can't fit. They also, under the law, you can only have a driver, 9+1, a driver and 9. That's all you can do on a bus. Even if you want a 15 passenger, it's illegal. You can't do it because of these accidents, these multi-accidents that have had those vans.
Yeah,
So
that was
it's
what I
been
was-
limited as a public school.
Coach
we
is the
cannot.
coach, the driver's the
Correct.
driver.
So, like if we have to do CRTC, we got to send a full bus. Right now, we're looking at buying a van through their trust fund to be able to do that. That doesn't require CDL. They'll go through all the training like they do normally now when they take one of those little buses, and they'll have something. But could we spread that to athletics, and then now we stop some of the big buses for some of these smaller teams?
Yeah.
That's correct.
All right, great.
All right,
Thanks for doing that work.
no problem.
So, Jack, I don't see purchasing any buses this year.
No, we haven't. So I sent out to you the list. This was what was on the docket this year, as you see from that dime. I didn't want to finance at 6 to 7% and finance that amount. I've also kind of felt that based on the COVID, the buses weren't as hard used for those years, so we drag it out a little bit longer. But typically, we try to keep a lifespan of 10 years or less. We made a big purchase, if you remember, when we did the steam to gas. We did $9 million for steam to gas, $1 million for buses, $1 million for technology, and then $1 million for roofs. So we did a big catch up, but now we're at 2009 buses. So my thought is, if we get around to this Beaver Meadow, I might poke some buses in there, take a little bit off. Because usually what I do is buses last about 10 years. I'll bond them for 10 years, and the rate is so much cheaper than doing the lease buyout.
And Jack, are we still applying to the electric vehicle grants?
When they come out. I
And-
just got a thing about April. There's another round coming out.
And secondarily, have we done a kind of cost benefit comparison of the initial front costs of an electric vehicle versus kind of the oil cost that we would be using in a non-electric vehicle?
So a 77 passenger bus is $100,000. An electric bus with the charger is $326,000. Without the grant, it's kind of apples and
That's a lot of
giraffes.
oil until you break even.
Yeah, it's very, we got to put the infrastructure in, and we would put enough to do more than the amount. We've already, great group working up at the comp, and they're ready and willing when all the time comes together for us to do it. But it's, I think Kathleen talked about districts that were awarded that in the last round, and they're getting it like, what the heck do we do? I think we would be in a good place strategically if we can get a grant to get it.
And the city would look to partner with
Oh,
us on
absolutely.
that?
Yep, we've already met with them and talked with them that if this were to come, we would put things together to be able to do it. But it cannot be our sole source.
Right.
Right now, it's just not there. The buses get about 125 miles on a charge when you turn the heat on. So in the winter, 86 miles. So our runs are about 50 to 60 mile runs. So we would probably be okay, but
No
Yeah.
detours?
Yeah.
No detours?
no Boston Science Center. No, not on electric bus. Not
Gotcha.
yet. Okay? So,
Thank you.
coming soon, hopefully. All right?
Cross our fingers.
Yep. And you have the handout showing what the value of all those are, but obviously looking out 10 years, it's a little fluid considering how, the market may change I think, considerably over the next 5 years. Small buses are about 55,000, by the way, 17 passenger buses. And then the big buses are about double that. The 77 passenger.
Okay.
And then we buy used little caravans for like 10, 12 grand when we need them. So, okay. I mentioned the food service in the opening. I'll move that to the open session. And then there was a question about district SAU and administration. So we're going to try to cover it the best we can. I'm going to give a handout. Unfortunately, it didn't staple. First two did. So pass this on, and they're topsy-turvy. You want to hand that out, and we'll go
Glenda
through
eating the cookie.
the SAU, and I'm gonna compare 2010, 2011 to current, where we are, and how the district has changed.
Gotcha.
So it's a two-page document. But I'll give you what I usually present for an opening. I talk about the major functions as it relates to the 2300, 2400, 2500, 2800 series. And this is what overall administration. So this is including the HR director, the special ed director, all the building principals, assistant principals, all the support staff. So that's all the secretaries in the buildings are all under these functions.
You get to figure that out.
Okay. And for the handout, when that makes it around, hopefully, did I print enough?
Yeah, just enough.
Just enough? Okay. You got one? You good?
Yeah, I
All
have
right,
it.
I'm gonna pull up my little, hold on, my little staff slide, and I will try to make this a little bigger. I didn't try, I just tried to, make it a little nicer from this morning. Okay. So we talk about, and some folks will remember these positions or programs. So if I start off with the first one, the Director of Community Ed. We used to have Community Ed program, remember Jeff, right? And that program we eliminated several years ago, and the city took it over when it opened its community center. So we are out of the Community Ed business. Technology Director, we have one. But and then the Assessment Coordinator, that's in a bargaining unit. It's a bargaining unit for a teacher, and that is, I want to say, central. Their office is here, but they're district-wide because they go everywhere. Then you move to the DINI Coordinator. I know I meant to change that because I know you don't like the education speak. District in need of improvement. So that was eliminated. Then you have the Math Specialist. That is still here today. The Professional Development Coordinator. That existed then. That next one is so that was a full-time position. It is now Mary Wilson at that point 6. Okay.
But it doesn't say that it's been eliminated up above. Professional development, line 6.
You're right. I should have. So you know what? In my very
Now it
special
does.
version, I
Yeah.
can do that.
Bazinga.
So I apologize. I'll produce
All
that
good.
thing. So there. So that's eliminated, but underneath it is the position that had replaced it, and again that's part time. But we went without one until your last budget that you passed. Then you have an admin assistant for business and accounting. That one we eliminated and replaced with a accounting specialist. So again, whatever we've tried, and this is all of these are through attrition. So when a position changed and it had to be redone, we would look at job descriptions and see what the districts were, the needs were of the district.
So again, 8 was eliminated.
And
9
9
was
is
added.
9 is added. Yep.
Okay, it's not eliminated either.
Right. And then when I go down, you have an admin for business. That one is still here. And payroll manager, okay, or the admin assistant for payroll. That was that's eliminated. And then we have a payroll specialist, okay, because we have so much more of Time Clock Plus and so many more systems than we used to. The grant project accounting. So that is someone who was an admin assistant for the grants. We eliminated that for a year when we hired Ellen, but we brought that back. When you're managing $19 million, it was a lot just on one person. And then human resource admin assistant, that is a position that we eliminated and created a benefits coordinator for some that were on the board. If you remember that discussion, they were a little shocked considering the size of the district that we didn't have anybody that managed and focused on benefits. So we added that position when there was a reduction of another position. And then you have the admin assistant at, another admin assistant was in HR. We eliminated that position when they left and we hired a human resource specialist. That was an original position that went back to 2007. That person became the HR director and was never filled again, we reconstituted that position.
And for the admin assistant for HR, is that still vacant?
It is. And then we get into the maintenance custodial admin assistant that exists today, the special education admin assistant that still exists today, the receptionist that was eliminated for about 6 years. And what we would do is we would rotate, every department would rotate their admin assistant to cover the front desk. It was not popular. The logic for this in this office for a long time was we would cut here before we cut the schools. That was for a long time. And that's why you see the numbers are almost even when you get down to the FTEs, but I think that can only happen for so long considering the requirements today. We had a person that was focused just on staff development that was eliminated, and that has not come back. We have a second shift custodian, so somebody that comes in at night and cleans. You may have run across them, Gary. And then you have an assistant superintendent of schools, which is now the assistant superintendent of schools for curriculum and assessment. That was a new staff member in July of 22, Kimmy Arlott.
We now have 2 assistant superintendents.
You'll see it fully down, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then you have the business administrator, not sure who that is, the director of facilities and maintenance. So if you see there, they're still here, but you see the .50 in 10-11, and then you see a 1.0. So during the construction of the elementary schools, we put half of Matt's salary into the bond. 'Cause that's what he's doing, and that was a creative way we did to try to balance the budget. Also, it was reimbursable. So we felt, put that in there. He's the project lead. By doing that and making him the project manager, probably saved between $3 and $4 million. Because if you hire a construction manager, they're typically 3 to 4% of the total project cost. So, bargain. I moved down to the Director of Human Resources. That position still exists. Superintendent Schools. Last I checked, that still existed. Database Manager. That was a retirement, and we replaced that with a Solutions Architect in IT.
Can you explain the difference? Or
Database person did a little bit more of just reporting, so it seemed a little bit more clerical. This person has more programming skills and streamlining and creating bridges, reports that are a little bit more advanced than what we had before.
Give me an
Jack?
example that, like, when we are collecting data, one of the data points was collecting family members who are active duty. We didn't have that in Power School, so she could create that in Power School to give us that information so that when principals filled out information, it's that kind of thing when you need data.
Jack, item 17, human resource specialist, that has not been eliminated, or has?
That is new.
Okay,
I mean,
and
it was brought back.
what's the divide between that and the director of human resources?
So the director sets it for the department, and the specialist is more focused on the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
How long is the second admin assistant position for?
Been vacant,
Is it 2 admin assistants for human resources, or just? It's
just
on-
one.
Okay, so the 14 is just an old position.
Yep, when that
That's 16.
was when they left, that's when we created the benefits coordinator. We saw an opportunity there, rather than create a new position.
So, we don't have an admin assistant for human resources, we have the benefits coordinator.
Correct.
We don't have an admin assistant for human resources, we have a human resource specialist.
That's correct.
But we-
And
no, we do have an admin assistant.
it's just-
well,
And then
the
there's a
third
three.
is the
This is a
one.
list
Yep.
of 3
So we have
divided
a benefits
interestingly.
coordinator,
Yeah.
human resource specialist, and an assistant, in addition to the director.
Director. Yep.
Okay.
So it's 4 positions for $80 million in benefits and
And 1,000 employees.
yeah. My wife's.
So, they have long breaks and lots of free time.
Right,
Is what we're
totally.
saying.
Tons of downtime.
What was that?
I said, so, they have long breaks and a lot of free time. I'm being sarcastic.
No, I.
It just, when you look at the rest of the people, it seems to me, who doesn't know a lot about this, that that's a lot of staff, but when you talk about 1,000 people, is that pretty average for 1,000? Is it low, is it high, is it?
My wife's employer has 3,500 and they have 80 people.
In HR?
They have 85 people in HR?
Yeah.
This is very low. For
Yes,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
it's very
know,
low.
so I needed to just.
Very low, and I
Okay.
think that's why, you know, it's challenging sometimes putting this together because of the systems. It is very paper-based, very.
I'm glad you asked, because I had no idea.
Yeah, that's the kind of information that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So where was I at?
Is it
The,
fluke? Is it?
Yes.
so is it the network administrator, that still exists, the network engineer still exists, the two support technicians still exist, one handles mostly elementary and they share the middle school, and the other one is based out of the high school, but focuses on the high school, the two support techs. So these are the same number of positions from 10 years ago, and now every teacher, every student has a device. That was not the case 10 years ago.
No, at all.
So, just to put it in perspective. You have business manager, same position. The facilities coordinator, we mentioned in the budget about the facilities manager, that is that position. That was reduced in 2017. That was, again, a CHS, but district-wide, because we needed a place to put them. And then you have the human resource manager.
Okay,
who
can you
does
explain
all
that
the
one
con-
to me? I'm
That's the
sorry.
one that does all the position control in the system.
So that's a
all the
fifth
contracts.
person. Okay,
And then you have the payroll manager, processes payroll. We do about 875 to 950 checks every 2 weeks. And then you have the assistant superintendent for, which is the one for student services. That's the other one.
So are the 820 to 900 checks every, like, bi-weekly, but we have about 1,000 employees, are those contractors?
It's everything
remaining, like,
from
100?
coaches
Okay.
to
Substitutes.
substitutes to, yeah.
Got it.
It's an event every 2 weeks.
I bet.
It takes 2 full days to process on Wednesday.
okay, it's because, I know our superintendent has all this free time, but I'm just checking that there's an assistant to the superintendent and then an executive administrative assistant
Yeah, to the assistant
To the assistant
superintendent.
to the, oh, I see, yep, okay, see,
Yeah.
I can't, that's why I need checking.
And there's
You
only
only have one more?
one, oh wait,
This shows that the executive administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent has been eliminated.
There are 2 assistants to the superintendent.
There are 2 assistants.
so there's another one that's still there.
Down below, executive
You
administrative.
have
Okay.
Bridget, who you deal with, and then Karen, they're the two. They're used, when I came on board in 09, there were 4, but, yeah, 2. And then I have one for, in the CBA, that one is exempt, and I'm able to have one, I gave that up 5 years ago.
Is that tenable?
I don't know, the numbers work, I guess.
Okay.
answer- short answer,
I
yes.
did that when the reception position is a COPA position, and I didn't like that they had to rotate every day, didn't have access to their files, so when that position freed up, I didn't replace it. Didn't seem to be efficient, losing somebody a day every 8 days, that was the rotation every 8, 9 days.
Did I miss an explanation of what a systems coordinator for student services is?
Did I skip that one?
I don't know, I don't.
I might have, hold on.
Okay.
I don't
Let me
think
make
we're
sure
there
that
yet.
oh yeah,
Oh,
there it
yeah.
is. So the executive assistant to the superintendent, that one is eliminated, and it's the systems coordinator for student services. So they make sure all the 504s, all the
IEPs.
everything,
Okay.
all that is happening.
Okay,
Yeah,
All the
she does a great
billing,
job.
all
All the
the
preschool billing,
Oh, yeah.
all the
The
Deerfield billing.
billing.
You know, it's over $3 million just for that. So then, yeah, the superintendent business, the director of student services, which is now the assistant superintendent for student services. And then you have the courier, which is a half-time. That is your former HR director who is filling in while our courier is out with an illness. Yes.
Where's the remaining 0.34 for the Director of Student Services?
Is down below in a grant, Title I.
Got it.
Title I used to have its own person. Nope, that's split too.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then you have the grant manager, which we've never had. That is a position. But again, that's offset by the indirect in which the grants that she brings in. And then you have the DEIJ. That is based out of the high school. That was a recommendation, I believe, by the board. And then you have their safety compliance officer, which was a board recommendation coming out of the report from several years ago. Then we have an auditor that we have that was through a contracted service that we brought in-house, who does about 2 or 3 hours a week. That auditor was brought in after the food service theft in '07, and we've kept it. And they're the conduit between me and the business manager. They come in and reconcile all the statements independently. He used to be an auditor, but he lives in town, graduated from Concord High, comes in, like I said, 2 or 3 hours a week, if that, and
Nice.
puts everything together, and if it's a penny off, we know about it. So, great, yep, small money.
Yep.
No benefits, nothing there, that's easy.
Nice.
Early childhood coordinator, again, that's based out of Havas Central, that's out up under John, but that's district-wide. You had a district coordinator, that's also based here, but district-wide. There's a little bit of that position in a IDEA grant, so only 0.08 because of equity. You'll see it down below. It looked like that was fully in a grant years ago. That's prior to my time in the district. So we believe if that was there had to be a reason. It should not have been in a grant. As with Ellen, making sure we're compliant with everything. Yeah, because when she saw that, she said if they were, that shouldn't have been. So, anyway. And then you have the healthcare coordinator, which is the one that signs all ORFs for the special ed, oversees our wellness shots, and he's excited about it. So.
Yeah, it's pretty epic right there.
So when you look at, you had 36.10 FTEs 10, 12 years ago, you have 37.28 now.
I
Pretty
say
tight.
congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
really.
not bad.
Yeah.
And it really has changed so much. It really has, the demands, in terms of all of the programming that we do now that, 10 years ago, we did not do. I mean, it just wasn't,
Sorry.
as demanding. And I just think that, they've really done a good job at controlling the work and figuring out how to do that and still get the job done, so. And several of those positions are covered by grants or indirect costs. So if I took those out, it would be less than what you had what you had 10 years ago. So,
So when you get in the food service program, there's two people. There's a director and their assistant. There used to be a food service account manager, someone that called and did collections. That is now on the admin assistant. That was a 0.4. And then we had a food service dispatch, 0.86, almost full-time, and all they did was run food around the district. So when I got here, we decided to now have the vendors pick that up and ship it directly to the school. And then when there's overflow, then we have to go around, pick up the overflow, and bring it back to the warehouse, rather than everything be distributed.
Yeah.
So,
Because everything used to get cooked centrally and then brought. Remember when I taught at Walker?
Yeah.
That little kitchen couldn't cook all the food, but
Right.
it all came.
yeah, well, they're all equal now in the kitchens that they have.
Yeah.
So, and they do a great program on a, tight budget, as you'll see. So, but there's only two there, and those other two were eliminated. And then when you get into the grant funded, that's what I was saying, you had a district coordinator, not, they didn't have one, they did, but it was under a grant. So there's that 0.8 of the out-of-district coordinator that you saw that was a 0.92 above. Then the Title I coordinator, so you had the 0.66 for your student services, assistant superintendent for student services, there's the other portion. And then there used to be an ELL coordinator, that was eliminated. And right now you have a homeless coordinator, which is paid for by the McKinney-Vento grant. You have your director of staff and student wellness, which is under ESSER for another year. And then we have 2 support people for technology at a .60. They're paid out of ESSER, which I should have put in there. And that's it. And again, they may not all be based out of here, but if they have any type of we have supervision over them, that's why they're counted here. So it's not that there is 451 people in this office. We can't fit them all. There's only 10,000 square feet here. So it's not very much.
I mean, would you say that you guys are at capacity? Like you know, say I was like, you know what, let's give Jack an assistant. You would say there's nowhere to put them anyway.
One of the things we've talked about is reshuffling the 3 offices on this floor with some, like we did on the second floor. We could probably fit some more, and it might be good swing space, but we'll see. Not a priority at the moment.
And I anticipate we'll get into this discussion when we get to technology, but just to kind of reiterate what you said earlier, we have the same capacity within technology that we had 10 years ago with significantly less kind of technology materials like computers, and we have the same now as we did then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have any, excuse me, any thoughts at all on what happens when the ESSER funds run out for
I was gonna
those
ask that.
last 3 positions?
Well, the last 3, right now, the 2 support technology are planning on going away. So the only one, the director of staff and student wellness, we had planned for another year. There is a grant that they're applying for that I believe is 5 years?
Yeah,
That we
5-year
would roll them
grant,
into.
Systems of Care grant, very lucrative, and working with Riverbend and in a collaboration with Riverbend and the school district, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, if we get awarded
grant
that.
is- Yeah, if we get awarded that, and we really think we're in good shape, we're writing it now, and for submittal this month, so keep your fingers crossed on that, and I think that we would shift that position into that grant, because it's so much about what she does. I mean, today she was instrumental in helping down at Krista. You know, she made the connections to the health department. She knew she got all the folks, all the materials, all of that, helped write letters, have people on site today. So, you know, those positions are really valuable, and so we need to be cognizant of that. That's one of those new positions. That's a position you wouldn't have seen 10 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm hoping that the homeless coordinator position, you know, we're up over 100 students now, homeless students, and today we just got 3 students just came to us that are homeless, and so we really need to keep that position. Right now, it's all funded by grants, but I'm pretty, I feel good about the fact that that will continue. We'll be eligible for grants based on our numbers.
Okay. Now let's get to the fun part of the meeting.
Scenarios.
Okay, you asked for scenarios. So I'll start off, I did the best I could considering today's events and trying to get everything done in the last 48 hours. So we'll take a crack at it. But I think at least I have big picture. You had asked a range, everything from 5%, getting under 5% all the way to getting under 3%. But you wanted it cumulative. So I wanted to show you first at the local rate. If you cut 675,000, that's going to get you to 4.99 on the local rate, or a 67-cent increase. 1.45 will get you 3.73. 1.8 million, 3.2. You could see the rest. You know what the state rate does? Absolutely nothing. No control over it. And I know that there's arguments about me reporting that, and my good friend Mr. Coburn. But when I get the adequacy, it's on there. When we get the assessment letter, it's there. I can't get around it. Granted, I like taking advantage of it when it goes low, but I can't ignore it when it goes high. I don't want to do that to you, because then people are like, well, it says education. We have no control over it.
Yep.
So there would be your combined rates. So if you cut 675, you're at 6.15. all the way down to, you cut 2.8 million, you're at a little over 3%. Okay? So there's your deck of cards. Now we'll show you 3 of those options.
Choice.
Right?
Okay? So, the 675 option. Simplest, but keeps all the positions, would be to refinance the tech loan. That would cut $366,000. Okay? That was what Bob had mentioned. We do not transfer any funds into the Technology Innovation Trust Fund. And of the over 800,000 that's in there, we pull 181 out of that. There's your 675.
Is that sort of like an artificial, thank you, is that an artificial sort of staggering, moving, like doing that manipulation in the trust fund? Does that mean that next year, looking at the budget, all of a sudden, I don't want to do any kind of artificial sort of like, yeah.
I mean, you have, again, we put these monies away when we got, if you remember last October when we got that 1.5 million, we divvied a little bit in the special ed, a little in the instructional trust. The extraordinary needs grant you put away. Now, you pull down on them when it's time. There's almost 900,000. We'd like to spend 600 a year. We think that number probably needs to be higher. This ain't the year to do that.
Yeah.
But to have over 600 already in that fund, it's helpful.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All right.
It's not. I know what you're saying. Am I punting it down the road? No, but next year will be a bigger number for technology. I'm guessing.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And again, how much is in the fund now?
Almost 900,000.
900?
And what's our average yearly spend on technology over the last 3 years, 5 years?
Excluding network switches.
You know, last year was 1.5 million, but we
How
thought
often?
600 would be it. But
600.
you know, when you get into providing tutors, ed assistants, teachers, all the kids, there's over 7,000 devices.
Yeah. No, I know.
It's not. It's
But we're going to have to replace devices.
Yep.
We eventually will have to replace switches.
yeah.
So is 600 a good average number? In which case, yes, we have 300,000. Or is
It's a good
600 a
average number.
low number? In which case, we need to maintain a higher number in our trust fund. That's the basic question I'm asking.
So I maintained 600 where I was trying to in the general fund budget. So when you're below it, we're putting away. That was that 128. So we have, for example, 472,000 in expenses this year for technology, but 128 I had going into the trust to equal 600. And all I'm saying is I'm not going to do that. What should be in the trust? There's more than 600. I haven't determined to say what's a comfortable number.
But you've been trying to do what we do with debt service,
Correct.
which is to
Yep.
keep it at level so
Yep.
that we don't have
Yeah.
spikes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, but I remember, well, a few of us remember creating that
Yep.
not too long ago, and we created it because we were seeing, and I remember addressing it then, as we saw 1 year, you're
Yep.
1.5, next year,
Yep.
120,000, so,
Exactly.
okay.
But, you know, these are the years that you draw them out.
Okay.
I can't tell you right now what is the absolute most comfortable number. But knowing you got over 15 million in your trust funds, granted 10 million of that is the stabilization
Yeah.
for Runlet, that one I'm trying not to touch at all. It's time to draw a little bit.
All right.
You know, we're not crushed here. So that's a simple 24, 48 hour look, okay? But all the positions, everything was on the position list, what happened, okay? If I go to 1.45 million, you would do the same thing up above. We would move the math coaches to Title II for 1 year only, which would pretty much eat up that grant, okay? The public information officer, we would move 40% of it to Perkins. Knowing what we need to do for CRTC and market that, we believe we could have 40% of their time up there and getting those established relationships with those districts. Because as I mentioned to you, we need to do a campaign now every 4 years for those
Yeah.
area agreements. So getting out there in front of it, spending a good year getting that person to understand it, I think would be helpful.
Okay.
Then you have the district OT, the Abbott Downing preschool teacher, and the DEIJ. So remember when we got that $505,000. That was that October last year, and we said put it away. That extraordinary needs grant.
Right.
Granted, it would be punting these 3 positions down the road to next year, because that's one shot money. But you put it in your instructional trust, and we let you make a decision later. You could tap that now. Okay? Then there's a position at the high school that we have not cut, but it's conditional on another position happening. You could definitely take that cut if the position goes forward. And then you have the curriculum coordinator. We would eliminate it completely. We'd already reduced it, but we would eliminate it.
Yeah.
The Title II, is that money being used for anything else at this point, or?
No, we would have enough to free
would
it.
have
We would
enough
not plan to do anything else. But you'll be in the same position for the PATH coaches next year.
And what
Unless
does
they're-
Title II go towards? What could we use it for if it wasn't used for the math coaches?
That would be for professional development and training.
So it is
So
So if
sort of
Right.
the same.
that's why we're saying,
Yeah.
and Ellen and I, we went through it and cleared it. And she feels there's partial money in the one. We get the current allotment or more, because we don't know our things till the end of April. We can tuck them in there. Okay? And then again, the curriculum, that gets you to your 1.45.
And remind me again, what does 1.45 take us down to?
Going back.
499 cumulative, 373 local.
Okay.
Okay?
Squeaks us under 5.
I mean,
So-
I think the other thing we have to keep in mind, hopefully every year the state is not gonna have a 19% increase.
I mean, that's partly because they did that, they played the game with the statewide property tax.
Exactly.
Last
100
year.
million
Last
here,
year.
100 million there.
Yeah,
But
it's a bad
The
move.
election year.
Yeah.
So,
So
I heard you.
I oftentimes have random thoughts that just jump into my head no matter what, but this wasn't. This morning I was at a meeting with some of the members of the city, and they talked about their public information officer. And it just hit me, is there enough, I want to say this very delicately, is there ever a chance for discussion about having the school district and the city work together with one public information officer? Has that ever been talked about, ever been thought about? I honestly, I don't know how busy that person is, and I bet they're pretty busy, but I don't know how busy ours would be.
I feel
That's
like
a
we
good-
talked about that,
that's a
like
good
in the Liza
question, though.
Ponier years, when that all first started coming around, didn't
The
we?
communications
Yeah,
officer, we
yeah.
tried a different name for it back then.
Yeah.
And we're using that title as the final. I know
Yeah.
you had some suggestions, but I'm just trying to put that component
I-
in there.
I-
But yeah,
It's probably a discussion for another time, but
you can have it.
That's a
But
good
it's
I'll
a
just
function.
plant that seed out there.
You know, we can talk to Tom Asbell, talk to Tom about it. I have no idea. I know they use, Chief Osgood talked to me about how he uses that person, and in terms of our office, I mean, I think we can enhance our communication, but just this week, getting communication out to a number of people. And here's the other part that you don't see, is all the calls that come in from I've been on the phone with news people,
Yeah.
all over the place,
Right.
from Boston to New Hampshire, through New Hampshire. So those are the things that you do use a PIO for. It isn't necessarily a written communication, but
Don't get me wrong, I don't think that we shouldn't have one.
no, I
I
hear
don't
what
know
you're saying is
how
shared.
often,
Yeah.
I don't know how we can always pay for everything we would love to have.
Well, the other component you look at too, I mean, we know based on the Davis demographics where our enrollment holes are, but is there really ever a follow-up when a student leaves? I would task that person, because every one of those kids that walk out the door is $3,800. And we already know where we fall. We hit 5th, boom, 9th, we go back up. How do you
Yeah.
promote the district? We no longer can take the fact that we're a public entity and, well, people know we're there. You need to sell yourself. We have competition now.
Yeah. Yeah, I would argue that a communications person for a district this size, it's a full-time job. And I mean, if you look at the week we've had, you know, the week alone that we've had has been enough for a full-time person.
Now, I look at Pinkerton Academy, they have about, anywhere between 38 and 4,000 students at the academy. It's in Derry, and they have a full-time person.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I go to the, I don't know, nuclear option. So it's all the same things. All the same things. And again, this one I'm not as overly, timing wise was tough
We
today.
struggled with this one.
Yeah. This would, you have all the same stuff, but when you get to the bottom, you take the balance of the positions and whatever adjustments, which I think is about 500,000 would be left. That would all go. And then we would transfer from the trust funds and try to pick off every single one off so we don't create another cliff down the road. I just don't know where I can find 1.3 million that isn't coming back next year.
Yeah.
But that's gets you to the 3% combined. So I didn't do every one in between. I just figured this way
Yeah.
you had your
And the nuclear option gets us to what tax rate again?
3.01
3.0.
combined or
Okay.
1.56 local.
Okay.
Now, part of what you were thinking is the, is that the time?
7 o'clock.
Sorry, I try to
7 o'clock.
use my timer tonight.
That there is a potential for a significant increase
Exactly.
in state aid. And I guess going into this, you know, what's your thought on how much is, what's being replaced versus what would go back to the taxpayers if aid increased?
Yeah. I guess it would depend on what you would like to see for the number. Because I think like the facilities manager, okay? Maybe we just deduct on how much we were planning on transferring away into the facilities and renovation trust fund. As much as I don't like touching that, if I know there's more money, it'll replenish it. But I could fund it now with a lower rate, and then when that money, if money does come in additional from the state, then we can meet the obligation. Only because we know that that's a possibility. That's one idea, I just think, so that's, you know, $107,000 or $115,000 right there. But I think we can look at some of those positions strategically and say, let's fund them through some type of trust, something we don't normally do to hedge our bet going forward. You know, maybe even a CRTC position.
Is there, an SRO for Runlet in any of these?
No,
Or anybody?
no.
And
Is,
When you
What is
voted that out,
the-
we.
so if you had to come up, was it 1.3 million
1.45,
to get to that?
373.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you take that out, you can't take that out of trust funds?
Well, I'm moving so you have the first three. Everybody get that? I'm just refinancing the debt, not doing the transfer and pulling money out of the trust. That's revenue. The math coaches all moved to the Title II, so that just moves from the general fund, it's grant funded. That's easy. The public information officer, that I think we had at 107, 43 of that would go into the Perkins grant. So that would lower the budget by 43. And then the OT,
Oh, I think I was looking at the 1.8,
oh, I don't have the 1.8. I only
1.8.
oh, I
have
thought that's what you did.
That was 2.8.
2.8.
2.8.
There's only $1 million there.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we didn't use the math coaches this year and put them back into the classroom, it doesn't, I'm not seeing that we would save really any money because it's a grant, right?
Well, the grant would be used for other PD stuff. Right now, you're
That
gonna
we've got in here
forfeit.
to pay for.
No.
No, so
No.
it's not gonna, right, it's not gonna save us any money in this budget to take them out of there.
It would, because the grant would free up for PD stuff, and then you'd save 200, 21,000 in the general fund, 227,001.
So what you're saying is, yeah, so we are spending that
An extra
money
money to help.
for something over here that we took out. We've spent the money for those PDs from, this is from the grant going into this, but instead it would come from our general fund. So it's, you are taking the money away from something else to do that.
But we
I'm
already
not
had-
sure what it is we're taking away from in there, but it is coming away.
We already had PD budgeted in the general fund as general funds, not as grant
Correct.
funds.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's another one. There's 89,000 in for PD. We could pull that out of the instructional trusts, and then the money comes in from the state if adequacy and replenish.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, can we pull it from different trusts, and then if the state gives us the money, we
could.
can replace
We
those?
can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can
And
do
still
that.
keep it at
With
the-
your approval, we can do
The,
that.
the only problem with that is if the money doesn't come,
Then you.
then next year's tax increase is bigger than, because, or else
And
we
we don't
just,
have the trust funds now.
well, or we, we didn't repay the trust funds. We just
Back,
used, yeah,
right.
you said trust funds,
They aren't
aren't-
magic wells.
they aren't annual income. Right, they're a fit spot that we're,
Could you just go back to the nuclear option for a minute? So the 500,000 is coming from where again?
So the balance of the positions, because we've taken out what these other positions, we moved somewhere else or funded
Okay.
them,
Yeah,
and then we reduce everything else. And again, I did the quick math to try to take that. I'd have to really focus if you were
Right.
wanted to do this.
Are those cutting people?
Oh yeah.
no, well,
Balance of positions is cutting
Well,
people?
Well, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, these are every one of these right now. Well, let's say, yep. Every one
the
except
other
the assistant
The ones that
principal.
weren't, yeah.
And the emergency services, no, that not. But CRTC is tough because that more than covers itself. The business teacher, which I think you'd be required. Your art teacher doesn't exist, and your facilities manager doesn't exist. The preschool teacher doesn't exist, and the PIO doesn't exist.
so that's where that's coming from.
so a question.
That's the 500,000.
On the nuclear option, again, if we were to take money out of the trust fund,
Yep.
and if more state money comes, can we put it back into the trust fund?
That's what I'm saying. We do. We would strategically pull out stuff to pay that we know when the money comes in, it would go back. But you would feel comfortable knowing that if it's in, you're
Yeah,
comfortable.
well,
it's
I
in.
understand, but it's a risk.
Yes.
But you could do.
I'm kind of leaning towards a tactical nuclear option, which is a smaller nuclear option.
I
Which
like
would-
what you're saying,
in
Bob.
between.
Which is kind of
1.45.
taking us to the 3.96 level, so, you know, the 2.1 million as opposed to 2.825. That looks better. I think that there's a opportunity there maybe to, you know, if the state money comes through to even make it look even better. But I think that 4% number all in, especially given the 19% that the state's doing, is pretty good from our side.
You mean the 2.61% from ours for 4%?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
2.61, but the
3.99.
blended rate of
3.96.
3.96, you know, we've kept it under 4%, which is what the taxpayer cares about.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Blue light special.
And it's a big drop, 4.99 to 2.61. I mean, it's visually pleasing.
So if we were to do that, I mean, we've roughly got $675,000 less on the nuclear option on the transfer from the,
Is it the
From the
transfer or the positions?
Right.
Combination of the two?
yeah, maybe a combination.
Yeah, I would ask you to go take a look at that, and do that. The 2.61 local, what's that compared to our last year's local increase?
The local last
Yeah, what
year.
was our last year? I don't remember, I'm just curious.
Three,
I remember
three,
it
was
was
three
three something.
3.61.
3 point.
That was the local Not the combined?
I'm pretty sure it
Okay.
was.
It was
I'm
lower
sorry,
when
it was
combined.
Yeah, was it?
Oh.
Oh, so it was down and up.
The
That's
local
what we're
was
seeing.
over 7. And
Okay.
the state helped us last year.
Yeah.
Got down to 361 this year.
1 year juggling of the books.
Yeah.
When do we make decisions on those positions? Like, the high school had asked for a couple of positions, and the math coach, when do we do
Well,
that?
We're kind of doing it now,
Yeah.
because if we,
Except the high school hasn't presented
we,
yet.
we make those decisions on the
No, they did.
20, when we fix the budget.
27th and
27th.
29th.
Yeah, the end of the month.
Because 29th is when you'll vote, 27th is open, you have your public sessions.
So, yeah, so the 27th, Brenda.
I'm sorry.
We make those decisions on the 27th when
Okay.
we say, this
Yes
is
or
what
no.
we're gonna do, on the 29th when we approve. Tonight we post, but post can change, it's basically a draft. All right.
I guess
Ms.
I'd ask you
Robinson had a
to,
question.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Robinson and then Meeker.
Would you mind going back to the slide with, the most extensive option? I'm changing the vernacular on that. Looking at, the math coaches and all of these other positions, moving to extraordinary needs grant, moving to Title II, these are temporary resolutions.
They're all 1 year only.
We've had, specifically from the math coach's standpoint, we've had significant outreach. I've had significant outreach asking that we maintain these long-term. That issue's not gonna go away if we just move these to Title II. So if we do decide to use Title II, I would feel more comfortable prolonging these positions with a plan or like an open statement about, if the board's decision is next year to no longer fund these positions, what are we doing in the in-between to guarantee that, I don't know, that there's some kind of plan for the skills and resources that those individuals bring so that it's not entirely lost once they're gone. And I know that our administration is capable of doing those things, but I just don't want folks to keep coming back to us and saying, having these same conversations over and over
We've
again.
been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right,
I was gonna say,
it's frustrating.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they come to us over and over again because every year a new board is elected. And a new board is not bound by the prior
Right,
board.
you're right.
And so we can't, I hear what you're saying, but we can't make commitments for next year's board. It's just not,
That's fair.
But I think we are, right now, there's one in every school. We're saying we're gonna reduce it. We're sort of phasing it out, and these teachers will still be in the schools.
Yeah.
One concern I have is if we keep 3, and I'm assuming they were going to the elementary schools? They were for the elementary schools? But we have 4 elementary schools. So that means to me that you've got, and I'm assuming it's Broken Ground and Millbrook that would be sharing one, we're talking about 800 plus students?
Well, remember, this
600,
is-
and what are the other schools going to have?
600, 300 each.
So,
So we answer that.
yes, please.
Okay, so, if we had 3, we would split them, and we would use, share like Christa and Abbott Downing is one, Millbrook and Broken Ground, and then, Beaver Meadow and the middle school.
Beaver Meadow in the middle school.
Beaver Middle, yeah, they can, the coach is the coach, right? The high school, we feel pretty confident, given the fact that they're all math certified teachers with a math director, facilitator, Graham Chowder, who's been to your board. So we feel like we can do that work. I don't want you to forget that we still have a position called math coordinator for the district. That's Chantel. So this is the work she did prior to, this. So she's out facilitating meetings with teachers, going over all the coaching kinds of skills. So kind of answers your question, Sarah. This won't go away. Chantel is there, and in addition to that, we continue to have training, our OGAP training, which is our math training.
That's
And
awesome.
we just talked about that yesterday with her, that we'll make sure that in our professional development days, there's sections in those days that teachers will receive that training.
Okay.
So I don't want anybody to think we've had these positions and then we're just going to walk away, because we do know they're valuable.
And that makes me more confident
Right.
moving forward
Right.
that, there's, of course, we're not going to leave our kiddos in a space where they don't have, just to reiterate that for the public too. Like, this board has no intention of eliminating, any kind of resource that is incredibly beneficial to kiddos. If it just may look different at another time.
And may I ask about the interventionists at the high school? Are they going to remain, we didn't call them math coaches, we called them, I think, math interventionists?
If they were ESSER funded,
Then they're gone?
they're gone.
Okay. And I guess I have a concern about, I'm sorry, Karen,
It's all right.
to sharing schools and what that does to the position. It won't be the same math coach that people have become accustomed to if you've got people traveling between schools, and now we have travel time that we have to account for, and getting to know all those different students and what they need, and it's just, it would be a totally different program from what people are asking us to do. And I think that's important to keep in mind when we consider keeping those positions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kara.
Thanks. My question's a little broader, because the reduction options are obviously like pulling from trust funds and focusing on positions. But let's say, for example, we had our facilities presentation, and I can do this because Matt's not here, so he can't argue with me, but.
Should I come?
He burst through
He'll
the
find
door.
me later, I know. So, but I mean, we did have that list of summer projects with options for things to move forward with or delay. We talked about HVAC replacement, which obviously we all agreed is something that's necessary, but I can't quite wrap my head around like how that is impacting the current budget, because I know we were gonna bond for that amount. So I guess my overall question is, did you explore those other areas of the budget that we could trim, potentially?
Well, yes, and especially when it comes to facilities, we've maintained the same 350. I probably should increase the snow budget. I didn't. I probably should increase utilities. I didn't, only because I have that ESSER fallback, and I know there's still that window. And I'm trying not to make that big cliff, but I'm hoping things will equalize a little bit. We have to go back out for natural gas. I've locked in at 12.5 cents for electricity, so it's trying to find that balance. I don't know really on his budget, especially when it comes to that life safety stuff, how much I can continue to
Right.
go after that,
Right.
unfortunately.
And I'm just
Yeah.
picking on
No.
him because I think of it, but, when you're looking at the budget as a whole, these are the spaces where you feel that we have the most room.
Yeah, because when you look at the math coaches, we want to keep the 3. If they go into the general fund, you cannot now put them into the grant, because now you're supplanting. But if we move them to Title II from ESSER, you're good for another year.
Okay.
And you might even be able to, if you wanted to, Ellen, better not be watching, you might be able to do 2 years out of Title II, but again, what other impacts could there be? But at least you can do that. You go to general fund and you say, hey, we want to keep them, but we want another year. No. But we also under concern, the question's been asked about the data. You have not seen that yet. So do you feel like, that's why we're kind of thinking, is it wise to put it in 1 year only, see the data, are these working? You evaluate it a little earlier than the budget,
Yeah,
and then make the impact. That was kind of the logic for the
I like
Title
that.
That makes sense.
I mean, I also think if it's a professional development grant, and what we're hearing from our teachers and our principals is this is what they want for professional development.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing anybody say, don't take my PD time away. I'm hearing everybody say, I want these math coaches.
Yeah.
Jack, the $1.36 million that we are taking out of our trust funds, what is our total trust fund?
Well, with all the stuff, I think it's close to 16 million, 15, 16 million.
So
Yeah.
we're taking 8% or something like that out of that. And so that's the thing, is we look, we fund these teachers, but we take away the kids' iPads, we take away their air conditioning or we're taking away something. Or that's an easy one, we're just taking away the middle school for the next X years, because that's where a lot of that money is. Those are the decisions we're making. right? It's great for math coaches, but maybe are we getting 3 extra math coaches and taking away 4 high school English teachers or 3 high school English teachers? This is a trade-off, right? And we're gambling with 1.36 million that the state's gonna come up with some extra money. And just want to put it, you know, I'm looking at that and it's making me a little bit nervous at this level.
Well,
Go ahead.
just to be clear, my suggestion is that we not take 1.316, but we take about half of that and end up at the blended 4% rate, if you will.
I'm more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't know how others feel if we need to do a combination of positions and trust funds. I appreciate the reorganization plan of the high school, and I appreciate why they want an assistant principal, but I feel like that's one we could put off
Same.
a year.
Yes. Is that not
We'll
in
replace the one that's,
It's in there still, so.
It's in there, but there's also an offset,
Yeah,
and
there
it's
is an
not as
offset.
high as is listed, but we did not make the cut. I'll let.
So yes, I would agree with that. I think I understand their needs, but I think in all due respect, and I think, you know, I know that we have really high quality people there now, but I think they're doing a pretty good job with the number they have right now.
I would feel more comfortable adding position.
Teachers.
Yeah, I think we have to discuss, there was that class last year that we were paying for pottery where we had 4 people, and, you know, we'll see how that looks this year. You know, we will know more next year. It will be too late to add an assistant principal, but then we will have 2 years of school data. You know, we will know for the next 2 years what our state adequacy aid will be. We will have a better idea if the formula has been changed permanently, what that will mean to us, and I think we can make a better decision then about making some of those additions.
Okay. Other questions?
Does anybody have a rich uncle?
Go ahead.
I think there's many of them in this town.
I wanted to just see how people were feeling about adding a preschool program to Abbott Downing.
so necessary.
I feel like we have to.
As a special ed teacher, Brenda, and looking at the numbers coming in with 8 3-year-olds on the autism spectrum coming into our community, and those kids have to be serviced. To me, that's a no-brainer. We keep that no matter what, because we're legally bound to educate those kids.
And where would they go if we don't add the position?
They would go to our local things, and we'd have to
Pay for them there.
pay for the, they would, so right now, there's a balance between identified children and non-identified children, so that you have a nice mix of kids that don't need services with kids that do. So a lot of the non-identified students are our paying customers, so there's revenue there. Like I had my kids go, and one of them I paid for and one I didn't, because one had an IEP and one didn't. So what happens now is we have other places in the community that if we don't have enough room to educate the kids with special needs, we have to pay for them somewhere.
We have 2 programs though already, and they can't absorb the kids.
No.
I'm gonna ask the superintendent to weigh in on this one, or since she probably knows
Yeah,
most about the.
couple of things. We don't have any available seats out in the community. They're not there.
But I mean, we have to.
We have purchased a few, but we're down to just a handful of seats that we've purchased because we needed kids. But what happens is, we are full at both schools with our preschool. I'll give you the numbers. I have them right here. But the other problem is that the only way to bring on more kids, and we know they're there. You heard from John, right? All the referrals from Child Find, that is to reduce the amount of time. That's all you can do. And instead of a youngster being in there, maybe spending 4 hours in the program in the morning, they only come in and get OT, PT, and they go home. So they're not getting the kind of extended preschool. And I know it's hard, but if you read any of the research, the bang for the buck is always in the preschool level.
Especially with our special needs kids, yeah.
So wait a second, what's our current mix of
Identified and non-identified.
identified and not identified, and can you change that mix
Yeah,
and?
how the mix is very small,
Yeah,
very
now.
small
Used
now
to be.
because we've had so many referrals, so.
That was the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
was it-
When you get into having
right
a-
now we have,
classes.
I can
can't-
give you
we
those
can't cut
numbers.
something that's on.
55 youngsters at Beaver Meadow, 45 at Millbrook, and we have 10 community placements.
Wow.
So we have a total right now of servicing 110 youngsters. Those are 3 and 4-year-olds. Just looking for my more updated number, but
What are the costs of the community placements, and would they be able to come back into, if we had the Abbott Downing, would they be able to come back into our system?
I think John said for the 10 at, what is it, Woodside, it's 25,000.
yeah. Right now, we're actually up to 116 in January. That's my latest number. We have 58 at Beaver Meadow, 47 at Millbrook, and 11 community placements for a total of 116.
I think the question was how many of those are
Yeah,
ours?
I can't give you that number. I
Okay.
don't know the percentage between typical and atypical kids, but it's small. The typical kids it's a small number now.
Were we keeping 10 Woodside placements or 5? I'm trying to remember from John's presentation.
Well,
You're right, I think
Woodside may
keep
be 5, but we've got 11 people out,
Okay.
11 kids out there in different places.
And do we have to put them in those places? Would they be able to come back into?
I don't
the
have any
Abbott Downing?
space for them right now.
But I mean, if we had the
Abbott Downing.
Abbott Downing, would be able to bring
I
those,
think-
because that would save
I
us
think
money from
what
placing.
John was saying was we were keeping a certain number, he wanted to hold on to a certain
Right.
number
I think he
of
said 5.
Spots,
Right.
just to
at
make sure we had
Woodside.
enough slots.
So it's
Yeah.
5, I think that's what he
Right,
said,
5.
so if it's down from 11, that's some savings.
Would we take that 110 children, students, and divide them into 3 programs? Or is it
Well-
neighborhood-based?
Well, we'd try to make it neighborhood-based so that we don't have kids driving all over on those, on the little buses. But it's, the numbers are gonna stay up there. I keep reminding you that we have a significant increase in numbers of referrals, so these seats are gonna get filled.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'll get the breakout.
I will just once again bring up, and since we're a new board, I think we should reconsider the middle school configuration just to look forward into the future. And I'm not saying this is tonight, but I do think this is an important opportunity, especially as Superintendent Murphy mentions the forecasting numbers. It's only gonna grow, and I think it's an important conversation for us to have again.
For the members of the board who weren't here, the question was, do we move 5th grade to the middle school so that there would be more room for preschools at the elementary schools?
Other questions? So is the position that we were just discussing at Abbott Downing in this budget, or any of all these
I guess
budgets,
it
or out?
depends, because right now.
Where does it come out?
First 2, it's in.
Okay. And then the last
So
one
if
you
I
showed
took
us is,
the third one, it would be in. It's through the Extraordinary Needs Grant, and everything else is gone.
I like
And
that.
you got to use trust funds.
okay. But Mr.
But, yeah.
Mr. Cotton had proposed a
Yeah,
different
you
one
want to
that
get
we
to
have
the
no calculations
2
for
No,
right now.
I don't have a 2.15
Okay.
together. So, if trying to think how I do this, 'cause you have to post for 10 days.
Well, I mean,
Well, we could post
the budget as it exists.
as it exists now
Yep.
and then change it.
And open up that you're
Or-
considering lowering it, and this is the scenarios you're considering. Yeah, that you could do.
I think minimally, I think we could move it down to the 1.45. Just my opinion on what I've seen so far, and then work from there.
You would like to
I
post the
second that.
1.45 budget that
Yeah,
Piece
the
of
1.45 reduction. Yeah.
reduction that we saw there.
Yeah,
Jack, can we see that slide, please,
You
while
can
we're
do
talking
that.
about it?
and at least that poses a starting point for us to.
So in that scenario, I have the high school administration happening. Because I'm cutting the other position that I would need to cut to make that you're
What
not.
other position are you cutting?
That's,
I would like a non-public if I could to discuss that matter.
Okay.
No. I don't know if we can have that. We don't need to have it tonight,
No.
unless you want to have it tonight.
No,
Because-
I'd like, while we're thinking about it, it would be helpful to hear it, but if you guys
Well,
have had enough.
so Jack, the 1.45 that you had up there.
Yeah.
When we go up to the higher ones, these are all still
They're all still.
cuts, right?
There's
not one that you-
The cuts are of actual dollars are in the cut column.
The positions, the items, the,
Positions in the alt funds revenue, I'm either pulling in revenue or moving it to a grant, but they're staying. In
Well,
addition to
you know
the
what
other-
I'm-
But to
But
your
I'm
point,
saying-
I mean, everything that is here also shows up on the 2.85
Yeah.
Right.
something.
That's correct.
option.
So if we put this in and use that as a posting budget, we can increase that reduction
Right.
to whatever we want
Or
by
decrease,
just, or
yeah.
decrease, but I was gonna, or decrease, but by adding or
higher.
subtracting to this particular post. So I would be comfortable with Mr. Weinberg's
As would
posting
I.
Is that
proposition.
a motion, Mr.
Sure.
Weinberg?
I will make a motion that we go with the $1.45 million reduction scenario as proposed and post the budget.
Post the budget as such, you could do that, Jack, right?
I think
That's
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Robinson. Is there further discussion?
I don't know that this will generate good, this further discussion and public input, that's a good
And,
thing.
and yes, I look
And it
forward
shows
to
that we're
public input.
not just saying, well, we can, because we can, so.
Okay.
Right.
All right, without further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Dunn, you have a budget to post. And I will remind anybody who's watching that this is not a permanent budget, and we look forward to your input either by
See what Betty has to
email
say.
or in person during our public hearings.
Say it's going in the right direction.
Yes.
It is going in a more comfortable direction for me, I think, yes, so. Other business?
I think we have non-public.
Non-public?
Yes.
We
We
do?
do have a non-public. Do we have any other business from the board for this evening on the budget? All right, in that case, I do not anticipate any further public discussions for the meeting, so when we do go into non-public, we'll be turning off our live stream and our television feed. When we come out of non-public, it will be only for adjournment. So with that, would someone like to make a motion to go into non-public session?
One second.
Okay, take your time.
Do you need both or just the last one? Do you have anything?
Yeah, let's do both.
Okay.
Just to update.
I make a motion that we go into non-public session under RSA 91A 3, Section C and D.
Very, very well not read and abridged. Because having read it before, I know. All right, moved by Ms. Walsh and seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hastings.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Mr. Croto,
Aye.
Mr. Cotton,
Aye.
Ms. Meeker,
Aye.
Ms. Robinson,
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg,
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
Mrs. Higgins,
Hi.
and I am an aye.
All right. Having passed, we are in non-public session. We'll take a 5-minute recess.